It all began when the missing child returned from the woods with eyes no one recognized, and no one realized that her return was the beginning of a disaster. The film begins by introducing a family consisting of Nate, his wife Mary, and their 2 children, Eric and Rose. Happiness fills their home when Eric, their eldest son who has just graduated from high school, gets accepted into his dream college with a scholarship. This joyful news inspires Nate and Mary to hold a small celebration as a gesture of gratitude and support for their son's achievement. To celebrate the special moment, Nate and Mary invite their close neighbors, Danny, Jennifer, and their daughter Jessica, who live not far from the Daniels family's house. Eric also invites his 2 best friends, Jared and Matthew, who have been with him throughout high school. That afternoon, Nate and Mary's house is filled with laughter and cheerful conversation. Everyone feels proud and happy for Eric's accomplishment.
Pressure.
You got lucky.
Oh, got lucky.
Eric is heading off to college at the end of next week. Don't let us down.
No.
Meanwhile, Rose, who seems uninterested in the adults' talk, decides to go to her favorite spot. Seeing her leave, Eric follows her to the place where she usually spends time alone. There, Eric and Rose have a heartfelt conversation. Eric once carved a small mark on a tree trunk as a symbol of his love and affection for his little sister, and the carving is still there, though faint from time. Eric realizes that Rose must be sad, knowing he will be leaving for college and will have less time for her. Still, he promises to call and visit her whenever he can. He then persuades Rose to go back inside the house.
Hey, Rose.
And I'm never gonna let anything bad happen to you. Here, let's go back inside.
When the celebration ends, guests begin to say their goodbyes one by one. Danny, Jennifer, and their daughter Jessica also decide to leave after spending hours enjoying the warm atmosphere with Nate's family. However, before they go, Nate and Mary ask Jessica to stay and look after Rose for a while. They explain that they need to take care of some matters outside and need someone trustworthy to watch over Rose until the next morning. Normally, Eric would be the one to stay home and watch his sister, but this time he has to attend football practice with his team. Before leaving, Eric gathers the courage to ask Jessica if her feelings for him remain the same as before. It is revealed that Eric once confessed his feelings to Jessica, but she only saw him as a close friend, nothing more. Even now, Jessica tells him she still feels the same way. After Eric leaves for practice, Jessica spends time with Rose playing in the forest near the house. As night falls, Jessica reads a bedtime story to help Rose sleep peacefully.
What do you want to read?
The Girl Who Dreamed.
Chapter 1. 1,000 years went by, but to her it was love, she replied. But still, she carried on.
Before Jessica leaves the room, Rose asks her to keep the door open and the light on because she wants to see her imaginary friend more clearly. Since childhood, Rose has often talked to this imaginary friend, whom she considers her best companion. Although Jessica tries to reassure Rose that having an imaginary friend is normal for children, Rose insists that her friend is not imaginary. She firmly believes that the figure is real and always stays by her side.
See you tomorrow.
The next morning, Nate and Mary return home after finishing their business. They feel relieved to finally be back after leaving Rose under Jessica's supervision. As soon as they arrive, Mary rushes to Rose's room to check on her daughter, but her relief quickly turns into panic when she finds the room empty. Overwhelmed with fear, Mary immediately looks for Eric and asks if he knows where Rose is. However, Eric has no idea because Jessica was the last person seen with her. Hearing this, Nate and Mary hurriedly begin searching for Rose around the house, including the nearby forest where she often plays.
Where is she? Rose!
Despite hours of searching, they find no trace of her. Growing desperate, Mary decides to confront Jessica, the last person who was with Rose. When she arrives at Jessica's house, her emotions get the better of her and she demands to know where Rose is. Jessica, clearly frightened and confused, insists she has no idea. She explains that Rose had already been sound asleep when she left her the previous night. Seeing his mother so distressed, Eric tries to calm her down. Since no one knows where Rose could be, Nate and Mary report her disappearance to the police.
What'd they say?
After several hours of searching, the police finally inform Mary that Rose has been found deep in the forest. Although the details of how she got there remain unclear, the news brings a sense of relief to Mary. Together with Eric, she rushes to the location where the police found her daughter. The moment she sees Rose, Mary runs to her and hugs her tightly, overwhelmed with gratitude that her daughter is safe. However, as Eric watches from a distance, he begins to feel something strange. While Mary embraces Rose, Eric notices that his sister's expression looks different from usual. Her eyes remain fixed on him in an unsettling way, making him uncomfortable. Still, he tries to think positively, assuming that Rose might simply be traumatized. Rose is then taken to the hospital for a thorough physical and psychological examination. The doctor later assures them that Rose is in good condition and can safely return home.
I see you.
Once home, Mary prepares lunch for Rose and Eric, bacon and eggs. But oddly, Rose looks nauseated and refuses to eat when she sees the bacon. She asks Mary to change her meal to cereal instead. The odd behavior puzzles Eric, since bacon used to be Rose's favorite food. Trying not to overthink it, he convinces himself that her change in appetite is probably just a temporary effect of trauma.
And an egg? Can I have something else?
Of course you can. Coming right up. Let me get this out of your way. Eric.
Night falls, and Rose sits in front of the TV, completely absorbed in the show she's watching. When Mary approaches to put her to bed, she's shocked by what she sees on the screen, a violent program showing animals viciously attacking one another. It's very unlike Rose to watch such disturbing scenes, and Mary quickly turns off the TV to stop her from watching any further. She gently tells Rose it's time to go to bed because Anna will be coming over tomorrow. Strangely, Rose doesn't seem to recognize the name, even though Anna is one of her closest friends. Realizing that something is off with her daughter, Mary talks to Nate about Rose's strange behavior since she went missing. Mary suspects that Rose may have suffered trauma and might need therapy to help her recover. Their conversation, however, is overheard by Eric, who happens to be listening from the hallway. Though he tries to stay positive, Eric can't ignore how increasingly odd Rose's behavior has become. Later that night, as he's heading to his room upstairs, he glances into Rose's bedroom and is stunned to see her suddenly transform into a terrifying figure. In shock, Eric accidentally makes a noise, drawing Nate and Mary's attention. They rush upstairs to check what happened, only to find Rose lying in bed, waking up due to the sound Eric made earlier. Confused and frightened, Eric begins to question what really happened to his sister in the forest. The next day, Eric witnesses another disturbing sight, Rose eating worms she found in the dirt. Just as he's about to confront her, Mary calls him from inside the house looking anxious. She asks Eric to check on Jessica, feeling guilty for having scolded her the day before and wanting to make sure she's all right. That night, unable to sleep, Eric decides to go outside to clear his mind. With only a flashlight in hand, he walks into the dark forest behind their house, his thoughts heavy with worry about Rose and the strange changes since her return. Suddenly, a mysterious creature lunges at him from behind the bushes, ready to attack. Panicking, Eric sprints back home. But as he passes by Jessica's house, he catches sight of her standing motionless by the window, staring blankly into the night. The next morning, while Nate and Mary are out, Eric prepares breakfast for Rose, cooking her favorite, bacon. But when he serves it to her, Rose refuses to eat, saying she's not hungry and asking for cereal instead. Sensing something is terribly wrong, Eric insists she eat the bacon. As soon as she takes a bite, Rose suddenly bolts outside and vomits in the backyard. Shocked, Eric becomes even more convinced that something is not right with his sister. Later that night, still troubled and unable to shake off his unease, Eric accepts an invitation from Matthew to attend a party hosted by one of their friends. At the party, Eric tries to have fun, drinking and dancing with a woman he meets there. Across the crowd, he sees Rose standing among the partygoers, her face pale and blood dripping from her head. Horrified and half-drunk, Eric rushes out and races home in panic.
Get your shit together, man. Come on.
On his way home, Eric is suddenly startled when Rose suddenly appears in the back seat of his car. Shocked by her sudden presence, he instinctively jerks the steering wheel, causing the car to swerve. Eric quickly gets out of the car to look for her, but when he checks the back seat, Rose is nowhere to be found. At that moment, a police patrol car spots Eric's vehicle, which has been involved in a minor accident. The officer approaches him and immediately smells alcohol, concluding that the crash was caused by drunk driving.
Where do you work? Yeah. What happened? It's not what it looks like, I swear. Stay right there.
As a result, Eric is taken to the police station for questioning. When Nate is informed of the incident, he is asked to come in to provide a statement and pick Eric up. Both Nate and Mary are deeply disappointed, worried that Eric's scholarship could be revoked because of his reckless behavior. While his parents lecture him about responsibility, Eric glances toward Rose, his frustration and disgust growing stronger. He knows deep down that the girl in front of him is not the real Rose he once knew. That night, Eric quietly enters Rose's room as she sleeps, whispering that he knows something is terribly wrong, that the being lying there is not his sister.
Not my fucking sister. I know you're not Rose.
The next day, hoping to clear his mind and ease his anxiety, Eric decides to go cycling. Partway through his ride, heavy rain forces him to return home.
Hey,
Later, while Nate is busy fixing the car, he invites Eric out for dinner at a nearby restaurant to discuss Eric's upcoming scholarship.
I'll do better. I promise.
You better get it under control. Soon.
Nate reminds him that college starts next week and stresses the importance of maintaining good behavior. He warns that even the smallest mistake could have serious consequences, including the possible loss of his scholarship. During their conversation, they coincidentally run into Danny and Jessica, who are there to pick up some food. Nate invites them to join their table, but Jessica's behavior is strange. She seems distant and reluctant to interact with the family. Her cold demeanor might be due to the harsh words Mary had spoken to her earlier. Suddenly, without saying anything, Jessica stands up and leaves. Danny, confused and concerned, immediately follows her. After dinner, Nate and Eric head home as the night grows late. Once back, Eric goes to his room and opens a photo album filled with memories of him and Rose. Looking through the pictures overwhelms him with sadness and nostalgia. Still troubled by Jessica's unusual behavior, Eric takes out his binoculars and peers toward her house. What he sees shocks him. Jessica is holding a knife and slashing her own wrist. Without hesitation, Eric rushes to her house and calls for medical help just in time. Thanks to his quick action, Jessica receives immediate treatment and her life is saved.
How's she doing? Thanks. Jessica and I were never really friends.
At the hospital, Danny expresses his deep gratitude to Eric, saying that if Eric had been even a few minutes late, Jessica might not have survived. Danny admits he has long known about Eric's feelings for his daughter, even though Jessica only ever saw Eric as a friend. He also confesses he has no idea why Jessica would take such a drastic step. She has been withdrawn lately, barely speaking even to her family, leaving Danny both worried and heartbroken.
She seems so happy. Jessica and I were never really friends. I don't know how to do it anymore. I'll give you a ride home.
Danny gives Eric a ride home. When they arrive, Eric notices Rose staring at him with a suspicious look. He goes to the bathroom to wash his face, but his mind suddenly feels clouded and chaotic for reasons he can't explain. After freshening up, Nate and Mary ask Eric to look after the house for a while. Shortly after his parents leave, Eric confronts Rose, telling her that he knows the person standing before him is not the real Rose. He demands to know where his real sister is and urges the figure to stop playing games.
You're not fucking Rose.
You can stop, right?
You want to kill me?
In an instant, Rose's eyes turn completely black. She taunts Eric, challenging him to kill her with the kitchen knife. Before anything happens, Rose says someone is outside watching him. Eric looks out and sees Jessica, recently discharged from the hospital, standing outside the house in eerie clothing. Anger and confusion overwhelm him. Frustrated, he yells at Jessica for showing up like that. In a fit of rage, he strikes Rose hard without understanding why he's losing control. Horrified by his own action, Eric retreats into the house, consumed by shock and guilt over what he's done to the person he's supposed to love. Feeling out of control, he goes to the bathroom, hoping cold water will calm his mind. But instead, he bites his lip until it bleeds. Meanwhile, Rose is seen drawing something on sheets of paper. When Eric finishes, unable to take it anymore, he grabs a kitchen knife, determined to end all of this. But when he enters Rose's room, it's empty. The walls are covered with drawings of trees, each marked with an X. Realizing these symbols might be a clue, Eric rushes to the old tree where he and Rose used to spend time together. Upon arriving, his mind begins to spiral again. But he starts digging at the ground with a shovel. To his horror, he uncovers Rose's lifeless body buried beneath the soil. Suddenly, a figure resembling Rose appears before him, slowly approaching to reveal the truth about what really happened.
I saw you.
What are you doing here?
The entity explains that on the night Jessica read Rose a bedtime story and left her to sleep, Rose heard noises downstairs and went to check. There, she witnessed something terrible. Eric behaving inappropriately toward Jessica. Rose screamed in shock, and Eric, panicking, tried to calm her down, afraid she would tell their parents, who were away at the time. Terrified, Rose ran out of the house into the forest, with Eric chasing after her. Meanwhile, Jessica, traumatized by what had happened, returned home in a state of shock. The deep fear and guilt that followed caused her to withdraw from everyone, even her own family. She barely spoke afterward, and the lingering trauma eventually drove her to attempt ending her life. As Eric chases after Rose, he desperately pleads with her not to tell their parents about what happened. But Rose refuses to stop running. Eventually, she finds herself cornered at the edge of a cliff with nowhere left to go. Eric continues trying to reason with her, begging her to stay quiet, but Rose insists she must tell the truth. Losing control, Eric moves toward her in frustration, but Rose slips and falls from the cliff. The impact kills her instantly. The horrifying accident shatters Eric's mind. Panicking and terrified of anyone finding out, he buries Rose's body near the big tree where they used to spend time together. When Eric finally remembers everything, overwhelming guilt consumes him. He is devastated by the realization that his own actions caused Rose's death. Deep inside, he had truly loved his sister, and Rose had loved him just as deeply. Memories of their happy times together flood his mind, haunting him until Jessica suddenly appears and strikes him in anger. Jessica, horrified, cannot believe that Eric was capable of killing Rose, the sister who loved him so much. It turns out Rose's disappearance had been caused by Eric all along. The Rose that Eric thought he had seen around the house was nothing more than a vision, an illusion born from his guilt and grief. Nate and Mary, who had been constantly leaving home, weren't running errands as Eric believed. They were searching for their missing daughter. The police had also been investigating her disappearance, unaware that Rose's body was buried close to home the entire time. Soon after Jessica calls the authorities, the police arrive to arrest Eric for Rose's death. Mary, standing nearby, can only watch in tears, unable to comprehend how her son could have done something so terrible to his own sister. Accepting his fate, Eric quietly surrenders, ready to face the consequences of his actions, and with that, the story comes to an end.